Now, on to the current royals, and they've made it to Scotland for their summer vacation. What have they been up to in the last week?
Well, it's an interesting time, the summer period, because of the royals take a back seat. The King and Queen are up in Scotland at the moment, taking a bit of R&R. Of course, it's been such a tumultuous year for the royal family. The King's still undergoing treatment for cancer. The Princess of Wales undergoing her own treatment as well. It's been very, very fractured in terms of the way that the family has been able to unite. And I think they have pulled together, but we haven't seen many engagements. We haven't seen many royal tours. But I think the second half of the year is going to be incredibly busy, especially for the King and Queen getting down to Australia and Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. But the summer period is very, very much a case of the family coming together. We're going to see Prince and Princess of Wales up in Scotland as well. The local villages in Ballater near Balmoral were able to see the King and Queen this week. So there's going to be a very busy autumn period, but very much a family affair over the summer months.
And there was an interesting note in the Daily Mail UK this week about how much the King and the new Prime Minister Keir Starmer will have to discuss at their next audience. It doesn't give us much detail about what they might discuss, but what do you think would be top of mind for the King and the Prime Minister for that annual visit to Balmoral?
Well, as I say, very much a family affair. But of course, you do have the constitutional elements of the King's job, and that involves keeping on top of the government red boxes, keeping on top of what is going on in the country. And of course, we have a new government here in the UK, and Sir Keir Starmer will be invited to Balmoral as the annual event for the Prime Minister of the day takes place. And I think they'll be discussing what has been going on in this country recently. Of course, you will have seen yourself, we've had a lot of disorder, riots taking to the streets, and fortunately that has all calmed down now. But we saw the King coming out and applauding the community spirit that faced down these protests and the disorder that had been pretty much widespread across the UK. So I think there's a lot for them to discuss. Of course, Sir Keir Starmer is just feeling his way into the new job, and the King is looking forward to sort of kicking on in this sort of last period of this year. As I said, the autumn tour coming down under. Hopefully, I'll be on the plane to come and see you guys as well, Caro.
That would be absolutely fabulous. Now, we have discussed on this show before the likelihood of the Sussex children potentially featuring in their next Netflix series, but a report this week that the kids won't appear. Now, given recent comments made by the Sussexes in their Nigerian Colombia visits, this would seem pretty prudent, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's obviously been criticism of the way that Sussexes have handled themselves throughout the last couple of years. They had this controversial mini tour, if you will, to Colombia recently. And Meghan and Harry have been very, very vocal about this sort of the scourge of social media. Putting their children out there is not something for them. And they're often discussing them in terms of how lovely they are and how they're growing up to be great kids. But I think if they were to feature in the Netflix documentary, they could open themselves to all sorts of criticism. And I think there's been a lot of heavy heat at the Sussexes' door recently. And whether they do want the privacy element, it's often very difficult for them to sort of finally balance and finally tune that part of their life. So I think it's probably a wise decision.
Well, no, never an argument from me about keeping kids out of the public eye. Now, lastly, there's been quite a sensational claim that Prince Harry may ask the King for financial support if those Netflix deals or that Netflix deal falls over. Obviously, it's speculation, but is there any likelihood of that happening? I've got about 40 seconds for you.
Well, listen, I think the King and Harry's relationship has been incredibly fractured, hasn't it, over the last few years? But whether Harry would sort of come back cap in hand to his father, I think he'd have a little bit more pride than that. And you never know, maybe the next book deal is round the corner to sort of fill Harry's coffers once more.
Well, we will see. No doubt we will be watching. Russell Myers, as always, thank you so much for joining us.